This is the X4, a new 360 camera from Insta360. In this video, I'm going to walk you through every button, setting, and feature. Let's get started. The X4 has two lenses. There's a front lens and the rear lens. There are 4 microphones. There's a microphone in the front, on the right side, on the left side, and the last one here on the rear. A large front touchscreen, the shutter button, the lens button, and the indicator light. On the right side is the speaker, the power button, and the quick button. On the left side is the USB-C port. The USB port cover can be fully removed. All you do is gently pull to reinsert it. You just push it back on. The battery and the SD card slot. On the rear, we have the LED status light and a vent hole. And on the bottom is the 1/4 inch thread. This is the invisible selfie stick. Now there's nothing special about this stick. What makes it invisible is the fact that it hides in the camera's dead spot. So you have the front lens and rear lens. Anything in between in this area is the dead spot, and that's where the stick sits, so it can't be seen. This is the thermal grip cover, and you use this because the X4 can get hot, especially if you are recording at 8K. So you put the grip onto the camera like so, and it becomes more comfortable to hold if it starts to heat up. The X4 comes with 2 lens guards. To install the lens guard, you want to align this mark here with the slot on the lower right hand side of the camera here, and then you twist to secure it. You can see the mark is lined up with the front speaker. And you just repeat the process for the rear lens. And you want to make sure that your lenses and the lens cover are clean before you install it. They get smudged easily when you are handling the camera. You get a Type-C to Type-C cable. There's a nice little lens cleaner and this small carrying case, and here it has spots where you can put the lens guard, which is nice. To insert the micro SD card, first you need to remove the battery by pinching the latches on the cover and pulling it out. The micro SD card goes right here. You just insert it. Reinstall the battery. And you don't want to see any orange, that way you know it's waterproof. To charge the X4, you use the provided Type-C to C cable. Open up the USB port cover. Insert the Type-C cord in, and the other end, of course, to your power source. To turn the camera on, press the power button once. Once the camera is on, if you push the power button again, that turns the touchscreen off, but the camera is still on. Press it again to turn the screen back on. To turn off the camera, press and hold the power button for 2 seconds. If for some reason you need to do a forced shutdown, you hold the power button for 5 seconds. The quick button allows you to quickly access the preset shooting modes. Press the lens button to switch between 360-degree mode to single lens mode. And you press it again and it will switch from the rear camera to the front camera, and then back to 360-degree mode. Press the shutter button to start recording. Press it again to stop recording. If you are, for example, in the menu, you can press the shutter button to get you back to the preview screen. Now we'll go over using the touch screen. Tap the screen to hide information. Tap it again to show information. Swipe down from the top to access the shortcut menu. Swipe up to get back to the preview window. If you are in 360-degree mode, you can swipe up, down, left, or right to adjust the shooting angle. Swipe from left to right to enter the album page. Swipe from right to left for the shooting parameter settings. And swipe from the bottom up for more shooting parameter settings. Now I'll go over the icons on the preview screen. In the upper left-hand corner is the storage capacity remaining. It says that I have 2 hours and 54 minutes of recording time left on my SD card. In the upper right-hand corner is the battery level. If I tap that, it shows the percentage. So it says I have 84% battery left. And here in the lower left-hand corner is the shooting mode that I'm currently in. And next to that is the shooting specifications for my mode. Right next to it in the lower right-hand corner is the switch lens button. You tap that to switch between the rear and front lens. And right above that is the field of view that I'm currently in. Tap the shooting mode icon in the lower left-hand corner to select your shooting modes. You'll see that there's 360-degree mode and single lens mode. When you are in 360-degree mode, all these modes will shoot either a 360-degree video or photo. So your first one is video. That's going to shoot an 8K video. Next you have the active HDR. That's going to record a stabilized high dynamic range video, and you want to use that on clear daytime conditions with good lighting. We have time lapse. That's going to shoot a static time lapse video. That's time shift. That's going to take a hyperlapse. That is a time lapse while you're moving. Then there is bullet time. That does a slow motion video with a 360-degree overhead rotation. Then there's loop recording. In loop recording, it records continually and saves only the last fixed time length that you select. There's star lapse. It shoots and stores multiple photos and automatically combines them to make the star lapse effect. In burst mode, the camera takes multiple photos in a short period of time. Interval, the camera automatically takes continuous photos at a specific time interval. HDR photos, the camera will take a high dynamic range photo. And photo, it takes a single photo. Now I'll go over the single lens video modes. There's standard video and records in 4K. There's free frame video. In free frame video, you can adjust the aspect ratio in post. In me mode, the camera keeps you centered in the frame and removes the selfie stick. In loop recording, the camera is continuously recording but only saves a certain length of time. Photo, you can take a single photo. You swipe down from the top to access the shortcuts menu. The first item we have is the rotation lock. Right now it is unlocked, so when I rotate the camera horizontally, all the icons adjust. Move it back vertically, they change. So I tap it, the rotation lock is on. Now when I rotate the camera horizontally, it doesn't change. The next icon is screen lock. Tap that. You can tell that's enabled because you're going to have that lock icon in the upper right hand corner. So now if you touch the screen, it's going to tell you if you want to unlock, you got to swipe up from the bottom. In the upper right hand corner, we have the icon here for screen brightness. You can adjust the brightness by sliding with your finger. And if you're going to be outside in bright weather, you're going to want the brightness to be up at the highest. Or go over here, you tap that, and it will adjust the screen brightness based on the lighting in the environment that you're in. I just leave it on automatic. That helps save the battery so you don't have the screen any brighter than necessary. The next icon we have here is lens guard mode. And depending on which lens guards you have, that the camera will automatically adjust to make sure the stitching is appropriate for the 360 photos and videos. So if you have it for the standard lens guard, the premium lens guard, if there's no lens guard, or you can just leave it at auto and the camera will detect and will adjust the stitching accordingly. The next icon is screen reader. When this is enabled, the camera will give certain voice prompts for certain commands. I'll show an example of that now. So the screen reader is on, and let's say we're going to check out some different modes.
Active HDR. Time-lapse. Video.
And let's say we want to record.
Start recording. Shooting complete.
On the right hand side of the screen in the second row we have the prompt sound. You can have that set to high, medium, low, or muted. If it's muted, you won't hear things like the screen reader that I just showed, or you can leave it at adaptive and it will adjust the sound based on the ambient sound in the area. On the left hand side of the screen in the third row we have the AI highlight assistant. When this is turned on, the AI will look for the best moments when in the video you're recording and will mark it to make it easier for you to go back and edit the videos. The icon with the hand is the gesture control. When this is enabled, you can use a few hand gestures to automatically stop and start recording and to take photos. On the right hand side of the screen in the third row we have voice control. You enable that, pick your language, and you have a few voice commands you can give to the camera. We'll test that out right now. Start recording. Stop recording. That worked really well. The icon here in the lower left hand corner is quick capture. When that is enabled, if the camera is turned off, all you have to do is push the record button. The camera will automatically turn on and automatically start recording. And you can set the mode you want it to automatically go to. Right now it's set to 360 video. And you can make your own custom setting. The icon in the last row in the middle is kind of grayed out here, and that's pre-recording. If you tap that, it says it's grayed out because it only works if you're in 5.7K. So all you gotta do is, I'm in the shooting mode here, and adjust the resolution down to 5.7K. Swipe down. Now that icon is available. Tap that. And with pre-record, it is going to record the first 10 to 15 seconds of video before you push the shutter button. So that's good to have on so you don't miss a moment. If something happens, you push the record and you're just a little too late. With pre-record, you're going to be able to catch that. The icon in the bottom right hand corner is timed capture. When this is enabled, you can set the camera to start recording at a set time, to run for a set duration, and you can pick your modes and your settings. An example of when you would use this would be, for example, you want to record the sunrise but you can't get up in time. You set it to start recording 20 minutes before the sun is set to rise. Have it record for an hour to make sure you get the whole thing, and it will do it automatically for you and you get the shot you want while you could sleep in. If you swipe from right to left, you see the remaining items in the shortcut menu. Here in the top left hand corner is the indicator light. Right now it's set to on, and you can see the indicator light here. If you don't want that light, tap indicator light is turned off and you won't have the light there. The next icon we have here is audio, and here you can set your audio setting to auto wind noise reduction, stereo, active wind reduction, or direction focus. I leave one on stereo. In the upper right hand corner is dive case mode. You'd have this on if you have a dive case on the camera. You're going to make sure you turn it off when you remove the camera from the dive case. In the second row on the left hand side, we have Bluetooth headphones, so you can connect your AirPods and use that for the audio for your videos. The next icon is Bluetooth remote. If you bought a Bluetooth remote, this is where you would go to connect it. Our next icon is presets, and you can access these presets from the quick button, but you can also go in here. So it came with some already set. You have motorcycle, skiing, outdoors, and say you want to adjust the motorcycle, you click there, and now you can edit, whatever mode you want, your shooting parameters, your image parameters, when you're doing your bike content. Let's say you're not riding a motorcycle or skiing or doing outdoors, you can make your own full setting here, and I will walk you through that. So let's say you want a settings for cinematic video. So you click the plus sign, go to customize, and you're going to do single lens video. And then you're going to go over to the shooting parameters, and you're going to do 24 frames per second at 4K resolution, 16:9 for your ratio. And you want to go in and do manual settings because you're trying to be cinematic, and you're going to put the shutter speed at 1/50, and you're going to have your ISO at 100, and you are all set. Click add preset. So now that custom preset is there for when you want to do your quote-unquote cinematic shots and adjust from there. So you close that. You can access it from here, or press the quick button. There it is, and it is all set. The last icon we have in the shortcut menu is the settings, and I'm going to run through all these settings as well. Now I'll go through the settings menu. Our first item is camera info. You'll find your camera serial number, the firmware version. SD card shows you the amount of available storage space. You can also format your micro SD card, but you don't want to do that unless you're absolutely sure, because it will permanently delete your photos and video. Screen auto sleep. The screen will go dark after a set period of time of no activity. You can set it to as little as 5 seconds or for it never to go off. And here is to have the screen go off during the recording, and that helps to save battery life. Touch to activate when off. When this is enabled, if you touch the screen, it will turn the camera back on. I'll show you an example. We'll disable it, and it'll make the screen go dark by hitting the power button. So you see if I touch the screen, it stays dark, and to bring it back up, I have to hit the power button again. But if I enable it, make the screen go dark, now I touch the screen and it comes back on. Auto power off. If the camera isn't being used after a set period of time, it'll automatically turn off. You can set it to as little as 3 or to never turn off. Power off charging. How this works is if the camera is off and you plug it up to charge, when it's on charge only, the camera stays off while it's charging. If you put it to charge and power on, if the camera is off, you plug it into charge, the camera will start to charge and it will automatically turn on. Then you have charge and record. If the camera is off, you plug it into charge, the camera will automatically kick on and record while it is charging. Next we have image settings. You can set the video encoding. I just always leave mine on efficient. Bitrate, I put mine on high. That's going to increase the file size though. Video sharpness. Digital camera video can be overly sharp, so typically you want to set it to medium or to low. Anti-flicker. So if you're recording indoors, for example, and you record your television set or or certain lights, you can get a flicker in the video. So if you set it for auto, the camera should detect that, but you can also set it by your region. I believe in the US it was at 60 Hertz, but I just leave mine on auto. The stitching is when the camera takes the view from both cameras and merges them together. I just leave this disabled and let the app take care of all that. Next we have the customize button. So here you can adjust what the quick button and the menu button, also known as the lens button, do. So if you have it at the quick button, you can use it to access the preset page, switch shooting modes, to take photo or videos, switch to single lens, mark and highlight. So you can go ahead and adjust it for whichever setup you prefer. Same with the menu button. Our next is long press shutter button to cancel recording. So let's say you're recording and you realize, no, this video isn't any good. You would long press the shutter button, it cancels the recording. The X4 communicates with your phone in the app via Wi-Fi. So here is your Wi-Fi settings. I just leave mine on auto. Next we have Bluetooth wake up. When this is enabled, you can turn on the X4 using the Insta360 app on your phone. I'll do a little demonstration for you. You see here is asking wake up on my phone. I tap wake up. And the camera turns on. External mic gain. If you have an external mic connected to the X4, here's where you would adjust the gain. Thermal grip cover. The thermal grip cover is used to make it easier to hold the camera because it can get hot, especially if you're shooting in 8K. So you can set it to automatically recognize that the cover is on the phone, or you can click installed or uninstalled. For language, there you have a few options. You select the one that you speak. You can adjust the date and time. So you can adjust the date. Here you can adjust the time. And under date format, whichever one you prefer. Gyroscope calibration. You will place the camera down on the flat surface and it will recalibrate the gyroscope, which is important for the stabilization and other features of the camera. And start the calibration. And that was extremely fast. Reset the tutorials. When you first get the camera and you start using new features, it gives you little tutorials. If you want to have those on because you keep forgetting, you go ahead and do that. Reset camera. So if you want to reset the camera back to its factory settings, you would do that here. And certification is just legal stuff. So that's it for all the settings for the X4. Now we'll go over the shooting modes and start with the 360 videos and photos. Our first one is standard video. You swipe up, you can see your resolution and frame rate. At 8K, your max frame rate is 30 frames per second. If you go all the way down to 4K, you can go as high as 100 frames per second. It is recommended if you're going to be recording in low light, you go to 5.7K. Now if you swipe from right to left, that brings up the shooting settings. You have auto and manual. When you're in auto, you can pick the color profile. There's standard, there's vivid, which will be more saturated, and you have flat, and that's if you're going to do color correction in post. You can adjust the exposure value. This is the low light stabilization, and that helps remove the jitters and blurs when you're trying to use electronic image stabilization in low light. It works pretty well. You can adjust your white balance. I typically leave mine on auto. And you have the exposure balance, and you can adjust that. Typically leave it on auto. Next you have the manual settings. Here you can also do the color profile. But you can adjust your shutter speed, your ISO, and your white balance. Right here You can adjust your field of view from mega, ultra to dewarped. And this button here is the switch between the front and rear camera. If you swipe from left to right, that opens up the album page. And here you can see the photos and videos you've taken. If you tap the icon in the upper right, you can select all if you want to delete them all, or favorite them all, or download them all. Or you can just select individual photo or video and delete, like, or download. You can look at an individual photo or video. You can favorite it. You can play. Over down here, as you can download it directly to your phone. You have to have the Insta360 app open though. It tells you the video length, what mode and what parameters you're using, and you can delete the photo up here. The next setting is active HDR, and when you select that, it records a video with high dynamic range. And you can go in and you see here that your resolution is 5.7K and your frame rate is limited from 30 to 24. If you swipe over to the settings, you do not get to adjust everything. All of that is being handled with the dynamic range settings in the camera, and you can leave the white balance at auto or manual, but you don't have control of any other settings in active HDR mode. The time lapse, you swipe up, you can see it goes high as 11K resolution down to 5.7K. Your frame rate is set at 30, and you can set your interval for how often it takes a photo for the time lapse. You swipe over to your settings. You have all the standard automatic and manual settings, your color profile, exposure value, low light stabilization, white balance, and exposure balance, and your manual settings. Time shift, that is a time lapse when you are moving. If you swipe up, you can see your resolution is 8K or 5.7K. The frame rate is set at 30, but you can control the speed of the time lapse. I find leaving it at auto works the best, but you can adjust it. You swipe over to see your settings. So you have all the typical auto and manual settings. Bullet time is a cool shooting feature. You attach the X4 to a string or a special selfie stick, and you spin it around your head or another object, and it creates these cool 360-degree rotating videos. So if we select bullet time and we swipe up to see the parameters, so you can go as high as 5.7K, and that gets you a frame rate of 120 frames per second. If you drop it down to 3K, the frame rate goes up to 240 frames per second. If you swipe over to the image settings, you do not have the auto and manual like you have in the video mode. Here you can adjust the color profile, the exposure value, and the white balance, and that is it. Loop recording. In loop recording, the camera is constantly recording, but it only saves, for example, the last 2 minutes, and you can adjust that in your parameters. So you would swipe up, you can see your resolution is set to 8K all the way down to 4K, and you set your frame rate, and down here you set your loop duration. So you can set it to only keep the last 1 minute all the way up to the last 30 minutes of video. You swipe to the image settings, you have all your standing auto and manual settings. The next shooting mode we have is star lapse. You swipe up, you can select the type. You can have a star trails photo or a star lapse video. The resolution is set at 18 megapixels. You can set the duration, and a timer. You swipe over to the image settings and you see that is changed. In auto, you can adjust the exposure value, the white balance, and exposure balance only. In manual, you can adjust the shutter speed and ISO only. Our next mode is a photo mode, and that is burst. The camera will take a set number of photos in a set period of time. The resolution is set at 18 megapixels. You can adjust the timer, and here is the number of photos it will take per second. So here you can take 15 photos in 1 second. You swipe over. Here is the file type. INSP is the equivalent of a JPEG. Pure shot, the camera will do some processing of the photo to reduce noise and other things. You can adjust the exposure value, the white balance, and the exposure value. Go to manual, you can adjust, the shutter speed, ISO, and white balance. We have interval. The camera will take a photo at a set interval. Swipe up. You can adjust the resolution up to 72 megapixels. Set the length of the time it will take photos and the interval. Swipe over to settings. You can pick your file type between the INSP, the pure shot, and the pure shot and a RAW file. You can adjust the exposure value, the white balance, and the exposure balance, and you have all your manual settings. Our next photo mode is HDR. The camera will take a high dynamic range photo. You swipe up. You can set the resolution between 72 megapixels and 18 megapixels and set a timer. You'll notice here if you swipe to look at the settings, you cannot adjust anything because the high dynamic range photo is taking care of the exposure and all those things. You can't even change the file type. The only thing you can adjust is the white balance. Then we have the standard photo mode. Swipe up, you can go as high as 72 megapixels. You set a timer. Swipe over for your settings. You can select your file type. You can do the exposure value, white balance, exposure balancing, and all your manual settings. That is all the 360 modes. Now I'll go over the single lens video modes. There's standard video and records in 4K. There's free frame video. In free frame video, you can adjust the aspect ratio in post. In me mode, the camera keeps you centered in the frame and removes the selfie stick. In loop recording, the camera is continuously recording but only saves a certain length of time. Photo, you can take a single photo. We've covered all the settings, buttons, and features of the X4. To learn even more about the camera, check out this video.